The CEO of MicroStrategy has just come out and said, today we're announcing a strategic goal of raising 42 billion of capital over the next 3 years, comprised of 21 billion of equity and 21 billion of fixed income securities, which we refer to our 21 plan. And the plan with all of that is to buy more Bitcoin. Hi and welcome to this week's market update. So what's been happening this week in Bitcoin, crypto and the general markets? First of all, let's have a look at Bitcoin and see what it's been doing. So as you know, over the last months, it's been on a general sideways and slightly downward curve. But in the last month or so, we have seen this blue arrow here showing us its first upward, higher low for many, many months. And then the next blue arrow on top here is our first higher high. Then following that, we had the green arrow, which was our next higher low. And following that, we had the red, which is our next higher high. And since then, it has just pushed on from there. We can see it's been very bullish. It hit off this downward trend line, this blue downward trend line, bounced off that, got rejected, made a couple of more attempts, and then went up, hit through, got through, and not only did it get through that resistant line, but it went within a couple of $100 of Bitcoin's all-time high. Of course, this is usually bullish. On top of that, we see the MACD sign here, this purple arrow, where the purple line has crossed over the pink line. That's the 50-day moving average moving above the 200-day moving average. This is usually a very positive sign. Let's have a look at the charts here and see what has happened previously when this has happened. And it's happened on two occasions relatively recently. We can see going back here to the start of 23. We can see here where it crossed over. And once it crossed over, we can see that it moved from, in around 20,000 up to 30,000, about a 50% move. Usually positive. If it was to move by 50% now, I think most people would be happy. That would take it somewhere between 100 and 110,000 Bitcoin. This would be usually bullish. If you move on to the next time that happened, it happened here, going back to the end of 23, and we can see again where that crossed above the 50-day, moved above the 200-day moving average. What did it do that time? It went from about 28,000 all the way up to its current all-time high, which was just shy of 74,000. That's a move about 2.5 times. If that were to happen now, we'd be closing in on a $200,000 Bitcoin. Again, I think the vast majority of the crypto market would be hugely happy with that. And of course, you would expect and believe that it would bring the rest of the crypto market with it, as it tends to do. So usually bullish. If we go into the 4-day here, we can see closer in what actually happened in this time frame. But you can see here again, when it made this higher high, this red arrow, you can see it hit off that downward line, the blue line. It hit off that, it hit that resistance line, got rejected, made a couple of weaker attempts, and then finally made an attempt, broke through, got to almost a new all-time high, just shy of it. And again, now you can see it appears to be doing consolidating on a sideward motion. Will it continue to consolidate there for a little while? Will it make a pullback to this line and test that support line now? If it were to come down, test that support line and bounce positively off it, that would be usually bullish. It may not even come to that. It may build energy where it is now, wait for some certainty in the market, and just take off into all-time highs and into discovery mode then, and see where Bitcoin can go. Why might it be going sideways from here? It's made that really positive move. It's gathering energy again. And of course, we have the US elections coming up in about 5 days' time. We're going to have, you would imagine, some idea who the president is likely to be, or the president-elect, in 5, 6, 7 days. And if there's certainty, if it's relatively clear-cut, and particularly if it's Trump, as he seemed to be more good for business, good for the markets, and of course good for crypto, then it's likely we could see this really take off from here. If it's clear cut for Kamala Harris, then there's a good chance we see a pullback initially. But overall, I think either candidate, it's going to be a positive time for crypto overall. Of course, being really clear, there's always the potential for the unpredictable black swan event, which could have a very major pullback. But other than that, you'd have to be bullish on crypto at the moment, and Bitcoin, and there's the surrounding currencies. So in that, how are the elections shaping up, or what does it look like? Well, here was the chart I showed you about 1 week ago. You can see here Donald Trump is, a hot favorite in the markets. But just to be clear, in the polls that they do in the US, they have them about 50-50, and I believe Harris is very slightly pipping that. So it just goes to show which one will hold true. We will see. But yeah, Donald Trump last week was about 58% to 40%, 42% Kamala Harris. On the back of that, you can see the likes of the markets and crypto has reacted positively, because the more certain it looks like him being the president-elect, the more positive they would see that for big markets, and many people are starting to front run that now. This week, it's actually up 1% from last week, but in between, he was as high as 66% to Kamala Harris, 34%, so a huge gap. That gap has narrowed slightly, but there's still a significant gap there at the moment. Who knows what will happen over the coming days. So with that, how have the markets in general been reacting? So we've seen Meta and Microsoft have come out with their earnings yesterday, and their earnings have, they've beat all expectations. Both companies have. Now, funnily enough, both of them have pulled back about 3% in the markets. Why? Because in their earnings reports, they also added that they were planning on spending huge money in AI, and the market has reacted negatively to that, because obviously it means more money that's being spent right now is less money for dividends, and so shareholders have reacted negatively to that. Long term, will that play work out? Many would believe so. Of course, AI is the one of the main narratives moving forward right now. Cryptocurrency keeps climbing. Again, whether Harris or Trump is elected, it is seen that over time, crypto is going to do well. Bitcoin is, as we've mentioned, near all-time highs. The token-based political contributions have topped 130 million this election cycle. And the next batch of lawmakers will be the most crypto-friendly in history. That is the expectation, and that is the vibe that both sides are starting to put out now. And so, where to? So, next thing is MicroStrategy. Of course, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor has been sort of the main guy out there promoting Bitcoin now and saying all the reasons why they should have some. And of course, we've seen that they have spent just under $10 billion now buying Bitcoin and bringing it into their balance sheet. That Bitcoin has been bought on average for about $40,000. Of course, it has gone up in value, and its current value is about 18 billion. So he's making a profit from his Bitcoin investments to the tune of about 8 billion so far. You would imagine at this stage he's saying, okay, now we have enough Bitcoin, we'll see what the future holds. Not Michael Saylor, not MicroStrategy. The CEO of MicroStrategy has just come out and said, today we're announcing a strategic goal of raising 42 billion of capital over the next 3 years, comprised of 21 billion of equity and 21 billion of fixed income securities, which we refer to our 21 plan. And the plan with all of that is to buy more Bitcoin. So they are very much doubling down, tripling down on their position within Bitcoin. So as mentioned, they've spent about just under 10 billion so far. Their most recent addition was just under 26,000 Bitcoin, spent another 1.6 billion on that at an average price of about 60,000. And here we can see in this chart, since they've decided to go down this strategy, which is since Q3 of 2020, every single quarter they've added more Bitcoin to their balance sheet. It's just a continuous buying spree. So, very positive. Has this been good for their annualized asset performance chart? Well, let's look at this. Annualized, they've been up over 105% per year since they started doing this. Compare that to Bitcoin, the actual asset they're buying, which is causing that upside. They've nearly doubled what Bitcoin's performance in that time frame. They've far surpassed what the Magnificent Seven, including the likes of Nvidia, Google, Meta, far superior, more than a 3x gain on what they have done, and their gains are very positive, and way stronger than the likes of the S&P 500. So this has been an incredibly positive strategy for MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, and one which they have announced now that they're going to, again, just double down, triple down on over the next few years. Now, where can Bitcoin go from here? Some people say it can go to 100,000, 200,000. Some say 500,000. We've heard the likes of Michael Saylor mention much higher numbers over the next sort of 25 years or up to 2050. Well, here's another guy, Fred Krueger, who has come out and made a case for Bitcoin and where it might go. So first of all, he said, okay, so US TradFi has three main asset classes: stocks, 46 trillion, bonds, 46 trillion, cash, 6 trillion, adding up to 98 trillion. Let's just round it off for easy maths to 100 trillion. Now, at the moment, the only real exposure this TradFi, which has $100 trillion floating around, has to Bitcoin is through the Bitcoin ETF. The ETF currently holds 1 million Bitcoin, roughly, and at a roughly $70,000 value, this means they have about 70 billion worth of exposure to Bitcoin. So if you do the maths, you divide 70 billion by 100 trillion, and you get 0.0007, which is 0.7 of 1%. But let's keep going. TradFi also can get exposure to the aforementioned MicroStrategy. And let's add in roughly 30 billion for MicroStrategy. That's roughly 0.1 of 1%. So now, all put together, you have 100 billion in exposure to Bitcoin, made up of the ETFs and MicroStrategy. If you compare this to the 100 trillion that TradFi has, that means it's only got 0.1% of its potential assets invested in Bitcoin. Is that likely to increase? TradFi could easily increase their exposure tenfold from here to bring it to just 1%. That still only brings it to 1% of its total assets moved into the likes of Bitcoin. And that would equate to 1 trillion worth of investment. This 1 trillion could flow into ETFs and proxies like MicroStrategy, and at a 40x multiplier, which is standard, that could move Bitcoin up to 40 trillion. How much per token would that make it, per coin? Bitcoin at 40 trillion market cap would put each Bitcoin to 2 million per coin. That's why we're expecting the God cycle. All it would take is TradFi increasing their exposure to 1%. Is this possible? Is this likely? Well, we see MicroStrategy and what they've done so far, what their plans are moving into the future, and how well their annualized gains are. They're bigger and better than everything else out there. Don't you think other companies out there are going to look at this strategy and go, if it works for them, it should work for us? There's already a company in Japan called MetaPlanet copying exactly this. The Microsoft have a vote coming in December suggesting should they look at doing this. If they were to come into the market, it would be another huge company with massive assets in cash that could convert a significant sum into Bitcoin. This would be immense. We already have countries who are regularly buying Bitcoin on a weekly basis. Donald Trump has said if he comes president, he is going to create a reserve in Bitcoin. They already have 200,000 Bitcoin, which is about 80% of what MicroStrategy have right now, that they have confiscated from others, including the likes of Silk Road. And he has said he will put that into reserve and continue to buy more Bitcoin as they go. If the US do this, do you think other countries around the world are going to look at doing the same? So we have some of the biggest companies in the world, potentially some of the biggest countries in the world, some already, some talking about buying more Bitcoin and at very large sums. Is it possible that we see 1% of all TradFi in Bitcoin over the coming years? There's every possibility, which leads to high potential of Bitcoin hitting 2 million over that period of time. We're not talking about a week, a month, or a year, but over a longer period of time, that's where this can go. If that is to happen, can you imagine what the flow from Bitcoin then down into the other cryptocurrencies and the potential valuations that you could see in some of these crypto projects? Incredible. So is it likely, or is there still a hunger for more Bitcoin? Well, in the last 2 days alone, we've seen a combined 1.76 billion net inflows into ETFs, about 4.5 billion in the last 12 days. These are incredible numbers. And so it appears that the appetite with the big institutions out there is only growing. It's becoming quicker and quicker. It is highly likely that we see a huge upside in Bitcoin in the not too distant future. Again, bear in mind, there can always be a black swan. The very nature of black swans is they're unpredictable and they can happen at any time. Never bet on all one side of the equation. And here's one more thing. which makes all of this even more incredible. Retail are not here yet. This is all based on institution. How do we know? The Google search interest for Bitcoin is still considerably down from the highs of May 2020 and is at its lowest place since 2020. So retail aren't here yet. Imagine what happens when retail comes back into the market. When we reach all-time highs, whenever that might happen, it is highly likely, it's in the news, people see it, they come back into the market and retail will come. So what does this mean for you? Well, it means if you are already in crypto or looking right now to get in crypto or learn your way and find your way in crypto, now could be a great time. You're ahead of the market. You're ahead of the game. You have a huge opportunity. And if you're planning on building your portfolio or even starting your portfolio, make sure you look at the last couple of videos that we've released where it talks about portfolio planning, what risks you might be looking to take, what upside you're looking to take, how to judge what your risk profile is, and the steps that you can take to start building that profile and what you should be looking at. The following video has, going outside the risk curve if you want to go outside of the likes of Bitcoin and Ethereum and what you should be aware of. And the following video we'll go into some details of what those possibilities are. There's more videos to follow. Make sure you look through these videos, whether you're a seasoned investor or someone that's starting off. This is good information to give you an idea of what you should be looking out for and what the possibilities are. And of course, what the risks are. With this, we're going to have some exciting news on more information and more opportunity for our community in a way that we want to help people just get more and more information, get more educated in the space, because the people that truly make money in crypto are the ones that are truly educated, know what to look out for, know what to research, and are educated in the space. So watch out for many more videos to come. That's it for this update. Hopefully you found it useful, and we'll talk to you all next week.